customers get aggravated when things take a week, 2 weeks to get back to them. You're just delaying their whole process. There's a term fail faster. There's, lots of other stuff like that where, yeah, maybe the first guess doesn't work, but you've got it in the system. You understand why it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, wait, this thing's a little too tall. I actually need something smaller than I thought I needed because I forgot about this wire that's in the way or something. So the quicker you can get that CAD to them, or the part number, or the drawing, or even a 3D printed part, like just the quicker you can get that in their hands, the quicker they can realize all the requirements they forgot to tell you.
Welcome to this week's episode of Agile Talks. I am special guest host Ryan Pistone, and with me today I have a special guest speaker, talker, expert. We'll call you a special guest expert. Is Bob Mulfinger from 3D Agility. He's replaced Mark on this episode. So, hi Bob, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I can't complain. It's sunny outside, so that makes me happy. All right, so today we're going to be talking about selling to engineers. So you sold to a lot of engineers, and the idea behind this episode is, what are the key differences, or what are the key things that you see or you think are important when you're selling to engineers who are clearly technical buyers, right? I think in my mind, based off of all the conversations I've had with you and your team, it's that engineers, you guys, you look for something to fail, right? You always expect that something's not going to work, and you need to be convinced otherwise, or at least you need confirmation that everything's going to go perfectly. So can you give a little context into why? Because you also were an engineer, or you are an engineer, and then what kind of selling to that group looks like.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, you usually have a healthy dose of skepticism in general, especially for any new technology or new product that you're not familiar with. It's very interesting to try to sell to engineers because of that. You basically have to win them over. And engineers don't typically like the normal sales pitch. If you go in with like a sales pitch, they're gonna get turned off very quickly. They want their problem solved. They want they want to understand what's new and different about your product to convince them to make any kind of change.
So when you would go in, let's say you were meeting someone for the first time ever, right? What does that conversation look like? Obviously, you're probably being brought in, especially you and your position. I'm assuming you were being brought in because you were being presented with a problem, but cutting right to the chase, or, was there any back and forth? Do engineers even like back and forth, or do you just really, I got so much time. I only have so much time. I have all this stuff to do. Get me what I need.
Yeah, it really depended on the person, but for the most part, I would generalize. The engineers would do a little bit of niceties. Hey, weather's great, whatever. But then they want to get right into it, right? Hey, this is what my problem is. They're trying to kind of jump ahead to what they think the solution is. And that's where we would kind of have to hit the pause button and ask them, like, okay, well, what is your actual pain point here? What's the overall problem? What are all the ways we can fix that problem? And, how can we help you? But, it's kind of funny because you would have to kind of pull them back, because they would try to get ahead of you. They would try to almost tell you your job and try to get ahead of you and come up with a solution without giving you the full problem statement.
Did you feel like you needed to be, with that in mind, right? You're asking what I am going to assume from a sales perspective is discovery questions, and you're diving deep. So, how much of a familiarity in the world that they lived in did you have to be, or did you feel like you had to be? Right? Did you have to have every answer right at that moment, or did you have to have a general product idea? You had to have a pretty good idea of what your product did, how it could solve problems, and then you could go do additional research and get back to them.
Usually you wanted to have a high-level education on their architecture and what they were dealing with. You weren't really expected to know the fine details of their exact design because they were just learning about it. but in general, you would just have to understand the general architecture and the typical problems. Space is always a constraint, higher density, smaller products, always a request. So, you would start off with having that basic high level knowledge. And, engineers understand when you need to go back and do further research, but they want quick answers. They don't want to wait for a week or 2 weeks. They want a solution tomorrow, today even. If you can go back and come up with a proposed solution within 24 hours, they're generally pretty happy with you.
So then what advantage, I mean, the obvious one would be experience, but if you're a newer sales engineer, right? Versus maybe how many years of experience did you have, being in the field?
In the field, 8 to 10, years of experience with engineering before that. Definitely being in the field was a different environment. It took some getting used to. But a newer like field application engineer or technical sales, it's very tough to get up to speed quickly. It's, companies have huge product portfolios, and you can't be an expert of everything. You kind of normally head towards the stuff that's more familiar with you, and you get up to speed quicker on that, or you get up to speed where a customer has specific questions because you have to. But then having high level knowledge of the overall product portfolio is key, just to even get pointed in the right direction in order to have that 24-hour response and get back to them quickly.
And I got, over, not that we won't name names, but like, I'm assuming over your would you say 8 to 10 years of experience of being the field application, in that space of actually dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis, I would assume it's pretty easy to tell who's going to be successful in your position standpoint versus who's not. Just from hey, they're pretty good at moving on their feet or at least trying to find answers quickly versus, oh, they're completely over their head. They might be the world's best engineer, but they're over their head.
Yeah, it's a completely different skill set when you get into field applications. You need to be, like you said, quick on your feet. You don't need to know the answer off the top of your head, but you need to know how to find the answer quickly. So, one of the things I did with my team was try to create databases and resources for them to be able to find those answers quickly, or at least get pointed to the right person that might have that answer for them. And that's, one cheat code or way to, try to get towards a quicker answer, even though you're not an expert in those products.
All right, so you started building your own internal tools, even on top of what your team had available to them, basically from an overall company architecture.
Yeah.
When you did that, did you see benefits to sales velocity, their ability to close, their ability to have, confident conversations with their target market or with, who they're trying to sell to?
Yeah. I mean, it can be very overwhelming without that additional help. Just even knowing what direction to go in. It's so much data in a position like that that's coming at you from both directions, from the customer, from internal. It's very key to be organized and just even know what direction to head in.
So when you look at a tool like Peregrine, right, and that's kind of what I think Peregrine, it's not what I think, that is what Peregrine was, created to do, is to help, people who were in your former position in customer service and anyone who is in a customer facing position go deeper, quicker with a customer. Do you think that is where the future is going? And feel free to push back, but do you think that it's almost like a sales enablement tool? I know there's lots of sales enablement tools. Hey, here are the key indicators. Here's where they're going. But it almost seems like equipping someone with the ability to be a better application engineer or a technical engineer, or sales, a technical sales engineer, you almost unlock a capability that they didn't have before.
Yeah, I mean, it allows you to get quick answers from a few requirements, a few known requirements from the customer, and just really narrow down your search right off the bat. It can help you clean the data if it's sloppy. There's many companies that have had a lot of acquisitions and have multiple different databases that basically are doing the same thing, but they haven't had the time to integrate all the databases into one. So then people have to log into multiple databases just to even search for the products. And if you had something like Peregrine, you could just put a quick query in and say, I need these specs, and can you narrow it down for me? And it'll get you pointed in the right direction a lot quicker.
And just to tie this up at the end, I would imagine that that's also probably important, because I would assume you don't have unlimited chances with these buyers, right? I do know that as they develop something, they're going to test and trial and do things, and it's probably not going to happen the first time that they select a component that it's going to work perfectly. But I would assume there is also an underlying pressure / desire to nail this within the first couple of options. Otherwise, they're going to go look somewhere else. You might have a great product, but if they think you as a sales individual have no idea what they're doing or can never solve them, I imagine that's harmful.
Yeah, if you can get a solution to them quicker and it just saves them time, even if the first solution isn't quite right? If they get a solution, you get it to them, you get the CAD, they lay it in their model. Oh, this doesn't fit. All right, what else you got? Okay, I got another solution within 12 to 24 hours. Like, they're going to want to just keep coming back to you if you can be that responsive. Customers get aggravated when things take a week, 2 weeks to get back to them. You're just delaying their whole process. There's the term fail faster. There's, lots of other stuff like that where, maybe the first guess doesn't work, but you've got it in the system. You understand why it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, wait, this thing's a little too tall. I actually need something smaller than I thought I needed because I forgot about this wire that's in the way or something. So the quicker you can get that CAD to them, or the part number, or the drawing, or even a 3D printed part, like, just the quicker you can get that in their hands, the quicker they can realize all the requirements they forgot to tell you.
No, it's actually, and I wouldn't even thought about that's the benefit. If you get it to it quicker, they can go through the process. So, all right, awesome, Bob. Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to thank myself here. I hope we made Mark proud. So, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, and everyone else. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.